The sound of their laughter still echoes in my mind. Not just any laughter, but the kind that scrapes at your soul, full of smug satisfaction, as they stood amidst the ruins of my home. My own sister, her husband, and his entire family. This isn't just a story about a renovation gone wrong. It's a story of betrayal so deep, it shattered my understanding of family forever. My name is Maria Reynolds. I'm 32 years old. And until recently, I thought I had a pretty good handle on things. I'm a marketing executive, and my home, a beautiful 3-bedroom colonial in the suburbs of Boston, was my sanctuary. It wasn't handed to me. Oh no, I spent 10 grueling years saving every penny, living in a tiny studio, taking every side gig I could find. This house, every single mortgage payment, every property tax bill, was built on my own sweat and dedication. It was mine. Now, my younger sister, Amanda, she was different. 5 years my junior, she was the family princess from day one. Our parents doted on her, giving her everything, rarely saying no. I still remember being 12, Amanda was 7, and she took my favorite sweater without asking. Spilled juice all over it. When I complained, my parents just sighed, "Maria, you're the big sister. You need to share with your little sister." And just like that, a pattern was set. My toys became her toys. My clothes, her clothes. My achievements? Briefly acknowledged before the spotlight swung back to whatever Amanda was up to. I loved her, of course. I just learned to accept it, to please my parents. This dynamic followed us through life. High school, she borrowed my car, dented the passenger door. College, she borrowed money from my wallet. After graduation, she showed up at my first apartment, suitcase in hand, after a fight with our parents. She said it would be a weekend. It turned into 3 months. Despite all of it, I maintained a relationship. Family, right? My parents constantly reinforced it. "Maria, Amanda looks up to you. You need to be the responsible one." Then, 2 months ago, Amanda called me, completely distraught. She and her husband, Jake, had been evicted. 3 months behind on rent. Jake had lost his job, and Amanda's part-time retail work wasn't cutting it. They needed a place, just for a few weeks, until they got back on their feet. I hesitated. Jake and I had never seen eye to eye. He always seemed to resent my financial stability, my fancy marketing job. He'd make snide remarks about people like me not understanding real work. But I couldn't leave my sister homeless. "You can stay on the pull-out couch in the living room," I told her. "Just for a few weeks, strictly temporary." She was gushing with gratitude. "You're the best sister ever. We'll be so quiet. You won't even know we're here. We'll help around the house." A week later, she casually dropped another bomb. Jake's parents, the Pattersons, were also having housing troubles. Their landlord was selling. "I told them they could visit us here sometimes," she chirped. "That's okay, right? They're practically family. My house isn't big enough for 5 adults." I wanted to scream no, but she gave me that look, the same one she used on our parents for the last cookie. Fine, I relented. But short visits, that's it. Shortly after, my boss, Linda, called. A major campaign launch in Chicago. A 2-week business trip. A huge opportunity for a promotion to senior marketing director. The night before I left, I sat Amanda and Jake down. House rules. Keep it clean, no parties, call me if issues. And most importantly, this is a temporary arrangement. Amanda nodded, all enthusiasm. "Of course. We'll take good care of everything. Don't worry about us. Focus on your work." I was so focused on my future, I completely missed the sinister undertone of her words. As I packed my suitcase, I had no idea that my sister was already planning to make my house her own permanent residence, whether I agreed or not. Chicago in the spring was beautiful. My hotel overlooked the river, and under any other circumstances, I might have actually enjoyed the view. But from day one of that trip, something fell off. My presentations were going great. Linda was already hinting at that corner office. But my texts to Amanda? They went largely unanswered. When she did reply, it was brief, vague. "Everything's fine. House is good." When I tried to video call, she always had an excuse. "Just heading out," or "reception's terrible right now." 5 days in, my phone rang. It was Mrs. Jenkins, my elderly neighbor. We weren't close, but she'd water my plants. I'd bring in her groceries. Her voice was laced with concern. "Maria, "Dear, is everything all right at your house?" I told her yes, as far as I knew. "Well," she continued, "there's been an awful lot of noise the past few days. Hammering, drilling, sounds like walls coming down, and several cars parked outside. I saw men carrying what looked like bathroom fixtures and kitchen cabinets." My stomach plummeted. I asked if she'd spoken to Amanda. "I tried to, dear. She said you were having some renovations done while you were away. Is that right?" I forced my voice to stay calm. "Yes, that's right. Thank you for checking, Mrs. Jenkins." As soon as we hung up, I called Amanda. No answer, first, second, third try. On the fourth, she picked up, sounding irritated. "What's up, Maria? I'm kind of busy. What's happening at the house?" I demanded. "Mrs. Jenkins said there's construction." There was a pause. Muffled voices in the background. "Oh, we're just doing some deep cleaning," Amanda chirped, her voice falsely bright. "Jake's parents are helping. We wanted to surprise you with a super clean house." "Deep cleaning doesn't involve hammering and drilling," I said, my voice rising. "Jake was just hanging some pictures and fixing that wobbly shelf. Nothing major." Her tone didn't sit right with me. "Amanda, please don't make any changes to my house without talking to me first." "Of course not. We're just cleaning. I promise. Listen, I gotta go. Talk later, okay?" She hung up before I could respond. That night, sleep was impossible. The noises Mrs. Jenkins described, the evasiveness in Amanda's voice, the constant stream of cars. My sister had boundary issues, yes, but would she actually renovate my house without permission? The next morning, I got a text from Amanda. "Just making your house beautiful. You'll love it when you see it." Attached was a photo that made my blood run cold. A corner of my kitchen, cabinets gone, walls partially demolished, tarps covering furniture. I immediately called Linda, my boss. "I'm so sorry, but there's an emergency at home. My sister is making unauthorized renovations to my house. I need to get back." Linda, bless her, was understanding. "We've done the hard part. The team can handle the follow-up. Family emergencies come first. Keep me posted." I booked the next flight to Boston 3 days earlier than planned. I didn't tell Amanda. Part of me, the naive part, still hoped Mrs. Jenkins had exaggerated, that the photo was just a minor repair. But as the plane took off, another text from Amanda popped up. "Hope you don't mind, but we're repainting your bedroom. Jake thinks the current color is too dark." The 3-hour flight was torture. My mind raced with questions, with a growing sense of dread. What exactly was happening? Why would Amanda do this? How extensive was the damage? It felt like an eternity. When I landed, I rented a car. I needed the freedom to react. The drive from Logan to my suburb usually took 40 minutes. Today, with my knuckles white from gripping the steering wheel, it felt like seconds. As I turned onto my street, my heart plummeted. 4 vehicles were parked in front of my house. Amanda's old Honda, Jake's truck, a large van emblazoned with Patterson's Contracting, and a pickup loaded with building materials. This was no small repair. This was a full-scale renovation, and I hadn't authorized a single thing. I sat in my car, shaking. Part of me wanted to drive away, pretend this wasn't happening, maybe call the police right then. But I needed to see. I needed to confront it. With trembling hands, I took my house key and approached the front door. The doorbell was gone, exposed wires in its place. I unlocked the door, stepped inside. The smell hit me first. Dust, paint fumes, something acidic that burned my nostrils. Then the visual shock. My once beautiful entryway was unrecognizable. The hardwood floors I'd lovingly restored were covered in paint-splattered plastic. The walls, half-stripped, patches of garish yellow shining through. I moved deeper into the house, each step revealing more devastation. The living room furniture was shoved aside, covered in sheets. Sample paint swatches, bright orange, neon green, dark purple, plastered an entire wall. But it was the bathroom that truly horrified me. The door was off its hinges and inside, complete destruction. My elegant clawfoot tub, a housewarming splurge, was gone. The toilet sat disconnected in the hallway. My marble sink vanity, installed just 6 months ago, was smashed to pieces, its remnants piled in a corner. A growing dread settled over me as I made my way to the kitchen, my favorite room. The space where I'd hosted dinner parties, perfected my grandmother's lasagna, spent peaceful Sunday mornings with coffee and crosswords. It was utterly transformed. Quartz countertops ripped out, custom cabinets gone, even a hardwood floor partially torn up, exposing the subfloor. My stainless steel appliances disconnected, pushed to the center. And there, in the middle of this disaster zone, stood my sister Amanda. Paint-splattered overalls, a triumphant smirk on her face, holding what looked like design plans. Beside her, Jake, leaning against what remained of my kitchen island, smirking too. Behind them, Jake's parents, the Pattersons, directing two workers measuring where my refrigerator used to be. For a moment, no one noticed me. I stood frozen, shock consuming me. The complete, utter violation of my home. Then, Amanda looked up, and her face didn't show guilt or embarrassment. It lit up with excitement. "Maria, you're back early," she exclaimed, as if I'd just interrupted a surprise party, not the unauthorized demolition of my home. "We want to have more done before you got back." What have you done in my house?" I managed to whisper, my voice choked with a mix of rage and disbelief. Amanda spread her arms wide, gesturing to the destruction. "We're renovating before moving in. Isn't it exciting?" Jake's parents are contractors, so they're giving us an amazing deal. "Moving in?" I repeated, certain I'd misheard. Jake stepped forward, slinging an arm around Amanda. "We thought, since you're so busy with your fancy job and travel so much, you wouldn't mind if we made this place our permanent home." Amanda's always loved this neighborhood. Mrs. Patterson, a stern-looking woman with artificially blonde hair, nodded approvingly. The layout was all wrong for a family anyway. Too many small rooms. "We're opening everything up, making it more modern." Mr. Patterson chimed in. "That bathroom was terribly outdated. And who needs a bathtub these days? We're putting in a walk-in shower. Much more practical." They looked at me, expectantly, as if waiting for my gratitude. When I didn't respond immediately, they exchanged glances, then burst into laughter. Loud, mocking laughter, as if my shock was the most amusing thing they'd ever witnessed. "Your face," Jake hooted. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Amanda wiped away tears of mirth. "Don't worry, sis. We know what we're doing. This place is going to look amazing when we're done." I couldn't process it. These people who had invaded my home, destroyed my property, were now standing here, laughing at my distress. 1,000 responses flooded my mind, screaming, calling the police, but instead, I said the only word I could manage. "Okay." Then I turned and walked to my bedroom, needing a moment alone. But even this sanctuary had been violated. My bed was pushed to the center, covered in plastic. My dresser drawers were open, clothes spilling out. The walls, once a calming sage green, were covered in primer. I opened my closet. My personal belongings, photo albums, books, mementos from trips abroad, were haphazardly piled. I searched frantically for the wooden box containing my most precious possessions. My grandmother's ring, letters from my late father, photographs too special to be digitized. After 10 desperate minutes, I found it beneath a stack of winter sweaters. The lock was broken, and inside, several items were missing, including my grandmother's gold locket. With trembling hands, I sank onto the covered bed. This wasn't just a renovation. This was a hostile takeover. There was a knock, and Amanda entered without waiting. "So, what do you think?" she asked, gesturing to the chaos. "We're thinking light blue for the walls, and we're getting rid of that old desk. Jake needs space for his gaming setup." "Amanda," I said, my voice steadier than I expected, "who gave you permission to renovate my house?" She laughed, as if I'd made a joke. "Come on, Maria. We talked about this. You said we could stay here. I said you could stay temporarily on the pull-out couch." I retorted, "I never said you could move in permanently. And I definitely never said you could tear apart my house." Amanda's smile faltered slightly. "But you're never here anyway. You're always working or traveling. It doesn't make sense for you to have this big house all to yourself when we need the space." "This is my house," I said, my voice rising. "I paid for it. My name is on the mortgage." "Don't be so selfish," Amanda snapped, her voice taking on that whining tone she used with our parents. "We're family. What's yours is mine, right? That's what Mom and Dad always said." I took a deep breath. I need you to stop the renovations immediately. This is not your house to change. Amanda's expression hardened. Well, it's too late for that. The bathroom's already gutted, and we've put deposits down. Besides, Jake's parents are investing a lot of money in these improvements. Improvements I didn't ask for or want, I pointed out. She shrugged. You'll thank us when it's done. The house will be worth more. And who will be living in this more valuable house? I asked, though I already knew the answer. All of us, of course. One big, happy family. She didn't quite meet my eyes. Anyway, we got to get back to work. The flooring guys are coming tomorrow. As she turned to leave, I asked, where am I supposed to sleep tonight? My bed is covered in plastic, and the bathroom is unusable. Amanda glanced back carelessly. Oh, we set up a cot in the basement, just temporarily, where you could get a hotel. I guess you can afford it with your big salary. With that, she left. I sat in stunned silence. Not just the destruction of my home, but the complete disregard for my feelings, my property, my rights. Amanda's claim, we talked about this, struck me as so profoundly untrue. Had she gaslighted herself into believing it? Or was she trying to gaslight me? Either way, I needed answers, and I needed evidence. I composed myself, then pretended to accept the situation, telling them I had errands to run. In reality, I sat in my car at the end of the street, making phone calls. My bank, my insurance company. What I discovered alarmed me further. Someone had attempted to access my savings account 3 times in the past week. Thankfully, my complex password had held. My insurance company informed me someone claiming to be me had called about adding additional people to my homeowner's policy, but couldn't provide the security answers. Around 6 that evening, I watched Jake's parents leave. An hour later, the contractors departed. I waited another 30 minutes, then quietly returned, slipping in through the back door. I could hear voices from the living room. Amanda, Jake, and Jake's father. I crept closer, staying out of sight, and started recording on my phone. The bathroom demo went great today, Jake was saying. Tomorrow we tackle the master bedroom. I'm thinking we make that our room, and we can use the second bedroom for Mom and Dad. What about Maria? Amanda asked, though her tone suggested this was a minor inconvenience. Jake snorted. What about her? She's never here anyway. She can have the small bedroom by the laundry if she's even around. She seemed pretty upset earlier, Amanda said, a hint of worry in her voice. Who cares? Jake's father replied gruffly. Once we put enough money into renovations, she can't just kick us out. We'll have equity in the place. Jake added, my buddy at the law firm says it's called constructive ownership or something. If we improve the property and live here long enough, we can claim rights to it. I felt sick. They weren't just renovating without permission. They were actively trying to steal my house. I found some of her financial documents in her home office, Amanda said casually. Her mortgage payments are less than we were paying in rent for that crappy apartment. We'll save so much money living here. Did you find the deed like I asked? Mr. Patterson asked. Not yet, but I have her birth certificate and social security card. I found them in that wooden box in her closet, along with some old jewelry. I thought we could sell it to help pay for the new kitchen appliances. My blood ran cold. Identity documents. My grandmother's jewelry. This wasn't just a boundary violation anymore. It was criminal. What if Maria won't go along with it? Amanda asked, voicing what seemed like her first real concern. Jake laughed. She always gives you what you want eventually. Your parents made sure of that, didn't they? Poor Maria, always having to share with little sister. Besides, Mr. Patterson added, who's going to want to live in a construction zone? The renovation will take months. She'll get tired of the noise and dust and move out on her own. Then we just don't let her back in. I talked to your parents yesterday, Jake said to Amanda. They think it's great that we're all going to be living together. Your mom said Maria needs to support family like she always has. They're coming to visit next weekend, Amanda replied. We can show them the renovation plans then. I'd heard enough. Carefully, I retreated through the back door. In my car, I replayed the recording. It was clear. My own sister was conspiring to steal my house, with the apparent blessing of our parents. They had taken my personal documents, stolen family heirlooms, and planned to make my life so uncomfortable I would leave my own home. and they were using some twisted interpretation of family loyalty to justify it all. I drove to a nearby hotel, checked in. In the anonymous quiet of the room, I broke down. I cried until there were no more tears, then washed my face with cold water. Stared at my reflection. They will not take what's mine, I told myself firmly. Not my house, not my identity, not my peace of mind. I opened my laptop and began researching. Constructive ownership, adverse possession, lawyers, identity theft. By midnight, I had a plan. It wouldn't be easy. It would likely permanently damage my relationship with Amanda and possibly my parents. But I've been pushed too far. It was time to stand up for myself, even against family. Before I slept, I made one more call. Mrs. Jenkins, dear, are you all right? Did you make it home? Yes, Mrs. Jenkins, I'm home. I was wondering, would you be willing to make a statement about the construction you've observed at my house? And perhaps testify that you never heard me give permission. There was a pause. Then Mrs. Jenkins' voice firm, absolutely. What that girl is doing to your beautiful home is a disgrace. You just tell me what you need. For the first time since opening my front door to chaos, I felt a glimmer of hope. I wasn't alone. By the way, if you're still with me on this wild ride, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss how this unbelievable story unfolds. I spent a restless night planning. By morning, I was exhausted but utterly resolved. After a quick shower, I started making the calls. My first was to Sarah Donovan, a lawyer specializing in property disputes. A sharp, no-nonsense woman in her 40s, Sarah listened intently as I recounted everything, playing the recording I'd made. This is outrageous, she said, but also legally actionable in multiple ways. Unauthorized construction, identity theft, conversion of property, possible fraud. We need to move quickly. We developed a comprehensive plan, document everything, secure my financials, prepare legal notices, and then involve law enforcement. Taking your personal documents and jewelry is theft, Sarah explained. The unauthorized construction is property damage and trespassing, and their recorded statements show clear intent to defraud you of your property. From Sarah's office, I went straight to my bank, closed existing accounts, opened new ones, placed a freeze on my credit, set up fraud alerts. Next, the local police station to file a report. Detective Rodriguez listened sympathetically. Family situations can be the most difficult, she said, but what they're doing is clearly illegal. She assured me officers would come with me tomorrow morning. Tomorrow? I asked anxious. We need to prepare the paperwork, she explained. And honestly, it's better to let them continue thinking they're getting away with it, documenting everything they do. I spent the rest of the day taking care of practical matters. A short-term rental, contacting my home insurance, updating Linda at work. And then, the city building department. Mr. Grayson, the inspector, was particularly concerned about unpermitted bathroom and kitchen renovations. Dangerous and costly to correct, he warned. We'll send someone to inspect tomorrow along with the police. By late afternoon, one more call remained. The one I dreaded most, to my parents. I knew their blind spot when it came to Amanda. My mother answered. Maria, Amanda told us you're back early. Is everything okay? No, Mom. Everything is not okay, I replied, my voice steady. Amanda and Jake have essentially gutted my house without permission. They've taken my personal documents and some of my jewelry. They're planning to force me out and take over my home. A long silence. Then a sigh. I'm sure it's not that bad, honey. Amanda said they're just helping fix up a few things. You know how she likes decorating. This isn't decorating, Mom. My bathroom is destroyed. My kitchen is half demolished. They've taken over my bedroom. They stole Grandma's locket. I'm sure she was just borrowing it, my mother said dismissively. You two have always shared everything. I never share my house with her. I never gave permission for any of this. My mother's voice hardened. Family helps family, Maria. You have that big house all to yourself, and Amanda and Jake need a place. Can't you just be generous for once? Her words stung, but they also confirmed what I'd heard on the recording. My parents were supporting Amanda's scheme. Mom, I've been generous my entire life, especially with Amanda. But this goes beyond generosity. This is about respect for my property and my boundaries. I'm going to have to take legal action if they don't leave. Legal action? Against your own sister? My mother sounded genuinely shocked. What would your father say? He'd say the same thing you're saying, that I should give Amanda whatever she wants because she's family. But I can't do that anymore, Mom. Not with my home. You'll regret this, Maria. Family is all we have in this world. Family should support each other, not steal from each other, I replied. I love you and Dad, but I need to protect myself now. The call ended with my mother in tears, and me feeling both guilty and resolved. I had expected this, but it still hurt. I returned to the hotel, exhausted, but with a renewed sense of purpose. I made a detailed inventory of everything in my house, photographs from before the demolition. I wrote down every conversation about Amanda staying, emphasizing the temporary nature of our agreement. I even mapped out my finances for a prolonged legal battle. Before bed, I texted Amanda, I'm staying at a hotel tonight since the house is unlivable. We need to talk tomorrow. Her reply was swift. Don't be so dramatic. The house is fine, but whatever. See you tomorrow. Her dismissive tone solidified my resolve. For too long, I had allowed Amanda and my parents to disregard my feelings, my boundaries. That ended now. I woke before my alarm, anxiety a cold knot in my stomach. At 8 a.m. sharp, I pulled into my driveway. The contractor's vehicles were already there, along with Jake's pickup. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and walked to my front door. I used my key, stepping inside. The house was already buzzing. Workers carried debris. Power tools whirred. Amanda and Jake were in the entryway, reviewing fabric samples. Maria. Amanda chirped, looking up. You're back. Look at these curtain options. I'm thinking navy blue would look amazing with a new wall color. Before I could respond, Detective Rodriguez and Officer Bennett entered behind me, followed by Sarah. Amanda's expression shifted from surprise to confusion. Who are these people? I'm Detective Rodriguez with Boston PD, the detective said, showing her badge. We have a warrant to search these premises and recover stolen property belonging to Maria Reynolds. Jake stepped forward, aggressive. What the hell is this? You called the cops on us. He glared at me with undisguised hatred. I didn't give permission for any renovations, I said calmly. And someone took my personal documents and my grandmother's jewelry. This is ridiculous. Amanda cried. We're family. We're just helping improve your house. Sarah stepped forward. I'm Sarah Donovan, Ms. Reynolds' attorney. I have here a cease and desist order for all unauthorized construction, as well as an eviction notice requiring you to vacate the premises immediately. Eviction? You can't evict us. Jake shouted. This is our home, too. Actually, I replied, my voice firm despite the tremor in my hands. It's not. My name is the only one on the deed and mortgage. You were invited as temporary guests, not permanent residents, and certainly not authorized to renovate. The commotion had drawn attention. Jake's parents emerged from the kitchen. The workers paused. What's going on here? Mr. Patterson demanded, his face reddening as he saw the police. At that moment, Mr. Grayson from the building department arrived, clipboard in hand. I'm here to inspect the unpermitted construction work, he announced. The chaos that followed was both terrible and vindicating. Detective Rodriguez and Officer Bennett photographed the damage. Mr. Grayson examined the demolished bathroom and kitchen, shaking his head. This work violates multiple building codes, he declared. No permits were filed. I'm issuing a stop work order immediately. The contractors, looking alarmed, began gathering their tools. One approached me directly. We were told you'd approved all this work, he said apologetically. If we'd known, we never would have started. Jake tried a different approach. Maria gave us this house as a gift, he claimed. She said we could make it our own. This is just a misunderstanding. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Do you have documentation of this alleged gift? A deed transfer, perhaps? It was a verbal agreement. Jake insisted. Between family. That's not how real estate transfers work, Sarah replied, dryly. And Ms. Reynolds has recordings of you and your family discussing your plan to force her out of her own home. Jake's face paled. Amanda burst into tears. You recorded us, she wailed. How could you spy on your own sister? How could you steal my house? I countered. How could you take Grandma's locket and my personal documents? Detective Rodriguez returned from my bedroom, holding a small box. We found these in the nightstand of the room Mr. and Mrs. Patterson are using, she said, opening it to reveal my birth certificate, social security card, and several pieces of jewelry, including my grandmother's locket. Those are mine, I confirmed, relief washing over me. Amanda's tears stopped abruptly, replaced by cold anger. You always were selfish, Maria. Mom and Dad said we needed to share, but you never learned that lesson, did you? Sharing is voluntary, I replied. What you're doing isn't sharing, it's taking. We put money into this place. Mr. Patterson interjected. Thousands of materials already. Without permission, Sarah pointed out. That doesn't give you ownership rights. In fact, you may be liable for the cost of restoring the property. The situation escalated quickly. Jake shouted threats. Amanda alternated between crying and accusing me of betraying family. Mrs. Patterson frantically gathered their belongings while Mr. Patterson argued loudly with the building inspector. Through it all, I remained calm, supported by Sarah's steady presence and the officer's authority. When Jake stepped towards me aggressively, Officer Bennett moved between us, a clear warning in his stance. You have 2 hours to collect your personal belongings and vacate the premises, Detective Rodriguez announced. We'll remain here while you do so. And where are we supposed to go? Amanda demanded. That's not Maria's problem, Sarah said firmly. You had a place to live before you decided to commandeer hers. As they reluctantly began collecting their things, Amanda made one last appeal. Mom and Dad will never forgive you for this. Is that what you want? To destroy our family? For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I overreacting? Was I putting property before family? Then I remembered the recording. Their callous plan to push me out of my own home. The theft of my most precious keepsakes. You destroyed our relationship, I said quietly, when you decided to steal from me instead of asking for help. I would have helped you find a place, maybe even loaned you money for a down payment. But you chose deception and theft over honesty. Amanda had no response. She turned away. 2 hours later, they were gone. The contractors had removed their equipment. Detective Rodriguez had taken statements. As the police car pulled away, I stood in my driveway with Sarah, surveying my house. From the outside, it looked the same, a modest colonial with blue shutters and a red door. But inside was devastation that would take months and thousands of dollars to repair. What happens now? I asked Sarah. Now we document everything for insurance and potential civil action, she replied. I'll file for a restraining order to keep them from returning, and you'll need to change your locks immediately. I nodded, exhausted but relieved. The confrontation was over, but the rebuilding was just beginning, both for my house and possibly for my family relationships. As Sarah drove away, my phone rang. It was my mother. I took a deep breath and answered, ready for the next battle. How could you? My mother's voice trembled with anger. Amanda called us in tears. She said you had the police throw them out on the street. Is that who you've become, Maria? Someone who calls the police on her own sister. I leaned against the porch railing, surveying the garden I'd planted last spring. Mom, Amanda, and Jake were destroying my house without permission. They stole my identity documents and Grandma's jewelry. What would you have had me do? Family works things out privately, she insisted. Your father and I are devastated. Amanda says you wouldn't even discuss it with her. That's not true, I replied, keeping my voice steady. I tried to talk to her when I first got home. She dismissed my concerns completely, and I overheard them planning to force me out of my own house. My mother scoffed. She would never do that. You've always been jealous of Amanda, always complaining that we favored her. The accusation stung, but I recognized it as a deflection. Mom, I have recordings of their conversations. I have police reports documenting the theft and property damage. This isn't about childhood jealousy. Recordings? You spied on your sister. My mother sounded scandalized. In my own home, which she was demolishing without permission, I pointed out. Mom, I need to know. Did you tell Amanda it was okay for her to renovate my house and move in permanently? There was a telling pause. We might have mentioned that it would be nice if you two could live together. You have all that space, and Amanda and Jake have been struggling. So you encourage this? Another pause. Not the renovation exactly, but yes, we thought it would be good for both of you to share the house. The confirmation hurt, but it wasn't surprising. Mom, I worked for 10 years to afford this house. It's mine. If Amanda needs help with housing, there are ways to address that without taking over my property. You sound so cold, my mother said, talking about property and ownership. This is your sister, and this is my life, my home, my boundaries. I took a deep breath. I love you and Dad, and I love Amanda, despite what she's done. But I won't allow anyone to disrespect me this way. Not even family. Well, my mother said after a long silence, I hope you're happy with your empty house and your precious boundaries. Your sister needed you, and you failed her. The call ended, leaving me emotionally drained, but absolutely resolute. The next few weeks were a blur of insurance claims, contractor estimates, and legal proceedings. The damage to my house was extensive. The bathroom needed to be completely rebuilt. The kitchen required new everything. Walls had to be repaired and repainted throughout. The insurance company initially balked, claiming I'd given permission, but with Sarah's fierce advocacy and the police reports, they eventually covered most repairs, minus a substantial deductible. I took a week off work, sleeping on an air mattress, living amidst the chaos. Linda and my colleagues were incredibly supportive, some even showing up on a Saturday to help clear debris. I can't believe your sister did this, Linda said, as we sorted through boxes. The worst part is my parents taking her side. I admitted. They actually believe I'm in the wrong for not letting her take my house. That's some serious enabling behavior, Linda observed. Have you thought about talking to someone professional? She was right. The next day, I found Dr. Lily Chun, a therapist specializing in family trauma. Our first session was revelatory. What you're describing is a lifetime of boundary violations, Dr. Chun said, after I recounted the history with Amanda. Your sister learned early that your boundaries didn't matter, and your parents reinforced that lesson. This house incident is just the most extreme example of a pattern that's been in place since childhood. Over the following months, as my house slowly came back together, I also began the arduous process of rebuilding my sense of self. Dr. Chun helped me recognize the patterns, develop strategies for establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries. The legal consequences for Amanda and Jake were significant, though not as severe as I perhaps wanted in my anger. They were ordered to pay restitution for the damage not covered by insurance. The identity theft charges were reduced when they returned all my documents. No one served jail time, which, despite everything, was a relief. For months after the confrontation, my mother called. Her voice sounded different, less defensive, more tentative. Your father and I visited Amanda and Jake in their new apartment yesterday, she began. I responded neutrally. It was eye-opening, she continued. The place is a disaster, Maria. Holes punched in walls, broken furniture, filthy conditions. And they're already 3 months behind on rent, according to the notice on their door. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, genuinely concerned, despite everything. I think we might have been wrong about some things, my mother admitted. The words were clearly difficult for her. We always saw Amanda as the one who needed more help, more support. We didn't see how she took advantage. It wasn't a full apology, but it was a start. Thank you for saying that, Mom. How's the house coming along? She asked, changing the subject. It's getting there. The bathroom is functional again. The kitchen still needs work. Would it be all right if your father and I came to see it sometime? And maybe take you to dinner? The olive branch was small, but significant. I'd like that, Mom. 2 weeks later, my parents visited. They were appropriately shocked by the remaining damage, and for the first time, didn't try to minimize or excuse Amanda's actions. Over dinner, my father reached across the table and took my hand. We didn't protect you the way we should have, he said, his voice rough with emotion. As parents, we failed to teach Amanda about respect and consequences, and we failed you by always expecting you to give in. I'm sorry, Maria. Tears filled my eyes. Thank you, Dad. That means a lot. Our relationship began to heal, slowly, with occasional setbacks, but with genuine effort on both sides. As for Amanda, she eventually reached out 6 months after the incident. We met at a neutral coffee shop, both nervous and guarded. I've been in therapy, she said after we settled. Turns out I have some issues with entitlement and boundaries. I nodded, waiting. What I did to your house was wrong, she acknowledged. At the time, I genuinely believed I was entitled to it. That's messed up. I know that now. It is, I agreed, but I appreciate you saying it. Jake and I split up, she added. He wanted to sue you for the renovation costs. When I said that was crazy, he got really angry. That's when I finally saw what everyone else had been seeing. We talked for 2 hours, covering painful ground, but also finding glimpses of the connection we'd had as children before expectations and entitlement had poisoned our relationship. I didn't invite Amanda back to stay with me, and she didn't ask. Instead, I helped her find resources for affordable housing and even recommended her for an entry-level position at a company where a friend worked. Small steps toward independence that she would have to maintain herself. A year after the renovation disaster, my house was finally restored, in some ways even better than before. I had taken the opportunity to make updates I'd been planning anyway, choosing every fixture and finish myself. On the anniversary of that terrible homecoming, I hosted a small dinner party for the people who had helped me through the crisis. Linda and her husband, Sarah, Mrs. Jenkins, and 2 colleagues who had spent weekends helping with repairs. As we sat around my dining table, enjoying good food and better company, Linda raised her glass. To Maria, she toasted, who learned that sometimes the strongest thing you can say is no, and that the hardest boundaries to set are often the most important ones. Everyone clinked glasses, and a warmth filled me that had nothing to do with the wine. I had lost some things that year. The blind trust in my sister, the unquestioning support of my parents, the naive belief that family would never truly hurt me. But I had gained something far more valuable, the knowledge that I was strong enough to stand up for myself, even against those I loved. That setting boundaries wasn't selfish, but necessary for healthy relationships. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to stop enabling their destructive behavior. As my guests chatted and laughed around me, I realized that I had created a different kind of family here. One built on mutual respect, clear boundaries, and genuine care. The kind of family I deserved all along. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with people you love? Sometimes the hardest lesson is learning that true love includes respect for each other's space and property. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe to hear more stories about finding strength in difficult family situations. Share this with someone who might need encouragement to stand up for themselves, even when it's uncomfortable. And leave a comment telling me about a time when you had to choose between peace and self-respect. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's how we teach others to treat us with the respect we deserve.